Woo! We made it to the July plan with me. Like many bullet journalers, I did a mid-year transfer to a new journal. You should check out my video of that if you haven't already. I'm still in a Maisie Lane & Co. bullet journal, but this time it's in a lovely shade of blue. Alright, I've known for quite some time what the theme for July is going to be, and no more stalling. It's going to be the Olympics. Let's get right into it. If you're new here, my name is Kanova, and what you are seeing right now is a pre-sketch. I go through and pre-sketch my spreads so that when I shoot things, it can be done efficiently and hopefully there won't be any mistakes. But as you can see, or as you will see as you go through this process with me, there are a lot of mistakes made, and you know what, that happens. You just kind of move forward. You'll see how I cover some things up, sometimes successfully, sometimes not. So what we're looking at here is the new logo for the 2021 Tokyo Olympic Games. So as I was doing my research, one of the things I found out was that the logo had been redesigned due to the public outcry that the logo that was originally designed looked too similar to another company in Tokyo. And so they redesigned and came up with this abstract logo, which is kind of cool. I had quite a time drawing these shapes because they very much connect, even though they look kind of like they're just random, they very much sort of are all connected to one another, which actually made it a little bit more difficult to draw. I wanted to make sure that I rendered it as close to the original as possible, which made it a little bit more difficult than what you will see later, where I use the ideas from the logo and sort of riff on them. Those actually came fairly easily and without any problem. I think if you decide to recreate this spread or recreate parts of it, you'll find that the logo, riffing on the idea from the logo, is fairly easy. And I'm curious if you would find doing the logo itself more difficult like I did. Alright, so there is some alterations to the logo. I wrote one on there, this version of the logo. I'm not sure if it's the official version is out there, and I thought it was pretty cool and a little bit of a nod, wink, wink to the reason that the Olympics didn't happen in 2020. So you get the original, but you also get acknowledge the fact that we are still going through a pandemic and we are shifting and changing and actually still hoping that the Olympics is going to happen in a few weeks. They don't know yet whether or not. I think everyone is just sort of proceeding forward with caution, and that's probably the best thing to do. So if you watch a lot of my videos, you know that I love a peek through. I love cutting up my journal and creating little peek throughs. I love the whimsy throughout the month so that I can just sort of turn back to these kinds of pages when things are a little bit stressful. I find it a little bit humorous, especially since this is a place where I am most definitely organizing myself. So we'll get into the details of all the things that are going to be happening on this page. But first, let's look at these cool anime characters that were designed for the Olympics. I'm not sure if they are like famous characters that I don't recognize, but I am probably thinking that they were specifically designed for the Olympics. I'm thinking at some point they'll probably unveil names for these characters, but for now we'll just call them the cool anime characters. I decided to render them here. I figured since they designed them, they were probably going to be an important part of the overall iconography for the games. I spent a good deal of time just sort of looking up and seeing all the things that exist already, the signage, as I keep saying, the iconography, and tried to incorporate them into the spreads as much as possible. I wanted to honor it, but I also wanted to be able to take creative liberties, if you will. So you might see some things that aren't exactly how they are rendered in the games. And at this point, we aren't quite sure how everything is going to be rendered in the games. Much of the information that's out there came from 2020, so we'll see what changes from 2021. Alright, so typically I have a page that is my calendar page. It breaks down the month. It's sort of my month at a glance, and this is that page here. I decided to do, this is my first time doing this, adding an additional page that will sort of open up and out. So what you'll see here is that I am doing a circle. It's a circle, and I'm calling them badges. I don't know quite what to call them, but I use these throughout, this sort of circle motif, if you will, creating my own iconography. This is not necessarily particular to the games. And I decided to honor the host country, which is Tokyo. I did some research on some of the famous landmarks, and I figured it would be kind of cool to incorporate those things into my spread as well. So in honoring the host country, I thought it would be pretty cool to find out some of the major landmarks, and I decided to add in the sky pencil, a famous mountain that escapes me. You'll see later on that I incorporate the Sensoji shrine into my drawings, cherry blossoms, of course, and lots of other very cool things. As you will see, I am using one of the stamps that I had previously. I just thought it would be easier to use it as a guide in creating this fan pattern. While I was looking up like national symbols for Tokyo, one of the things that came up was this flag symbol, and I was just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna lean into that, especially since I had already become a fan of it and used it in my mid-season or mid-bujo planning migration. That's a mouthful to say. I changed into a new bullet journal. You'll see the Olympic colors used throughout, but also colors that represent the different areas in and things that come out of Tokyo, Japan. So let's talk a little bit more about this fold out. We're gonna get into it pretty quickly once these fans are set up. So my fold out page is my calendar at a glance page. And for me, this is a page that I write any sort of important dates for the entire month right up there up front at a glance. So I go from my year at a glance to my month at a glance, and I write down all the details and things that may come up. I like to do my weeklies all at once. Some bullet journalers will do it, each week they'll do a different setup. But I like to have my setups done. I'm very busy, so I don't want to have to miss a week and not do something because I had something come up. So I have my calendar here. Eventually, any major bills that come up will be listed here, along with any important dates. Keeping with the Olympic theme, which is sports, I have included lots of little images and figures throughout. I say lots, like there's so many pages, but I include a few figures throughout. I thought it would be really cool to feature a synchronized swimmers, artistic gymnast, and so I have here a rhythmic gymnast. She's gonna have a ribbon that's gonna pop up. I love pop-ups. I've had quite a few pop-ups in my spreads this year, and I figured this one's a really simple one to recreate. I don't know how anyone couldn't recreate it. It's simply a circle that I am coloring, and then I'm going to cut it in one single cut like a snake, and then I'm going to glue one side to one side of the journal and the other side to the other, and you'll see in a few moments that it will look like a beautiful rhythmic ribbon soaring through the air, or at least that's what I am going for. Alright, so I had to re-tape this because the washi tape that I had was not sticky enough, and I taped it on both sides in order to make it stay. We will stay tuned to see how this holds up throughout the month. It feels like it will be okay, but we'll see. Alright, so we talked a little bit about the whimsy that I love throughout the month. You're probably wondering, what is this? This is my mini Simone Biles, of course, the Olympian I am most excited to see compete. This is likely to be her last Olympic Games, and let's just be real, she's kind of a superstar. She's amazing. So I decided to do a flipping or spinning Simone Biles. She's going to be on a balance beam. Later on, I was like, I should have just had it be like a floor routine. Anyway, this is a version of a spinning or flipping card. It's really popular and not much new. Basically, you create a card the length of however long you want it, and then you cut slits. I'm using my paper cutter to make 2 slits about a quarter of an inch apart, and then I am opening it up and using a 3D dot adhesive to incorporate the pennies and to also glue my card inside. You can see here that I am drawing and coloring in. I probably should have done this beforehand, but I really wasn't quite sure how things were going to fit in the book, so I had to go back in the end. Please forgive me if my flag is inaccurate. I kind of just sort of drew it from memory. I'm pretty sure that there's some mistakes. I don't want anyone to come for me in the comment section. So what you are seeing here is my packages. I started logging packages, and it has become a lifesaver and important thing for me to remember as I am going through the month, because sometimes things get lost, and with so much going on you can forget. So I incorporated in my June spread and in mini spreads a Dutch door. This is a bigger Dutch door. Really love this. One of the best things about it is I can draw whatever decorations I want in what I'm calling the header, and it follows me from week to week. I am again leaning into the famous landmarks of Tokyo. You can see the Shinju Buddhist temple there. I even included the pagoda, a sun, which is one of those common iconographies in Asian culture, and also the Tokyo sky pencil, just lots of famous things from Tokyo. I could go on and on about what those things are, or you could just sort of look them up. A quick Google, it will land you with a whole bunch of information. So I also included in my Dutch door cutout my audition tracker and my exercise tracker. So in the month of June, I created some additional trackers once my spreads were over, because spreads are done before the month starts, and I decided to do a fitness challenge, a 30-day fitness challenge, which has been going really well, and I decided I was going to try to do some sort of fitness challenge, whether it be like a planking challenge or whatever it may be, throughout each month, and we'll see how I do. In lieu of doing just a random quote page in the middle of my spread, I decided to do sort of these quote badges with Japanese proverbs written inside them. They look more artistic, but when you look at them up close, you can see that there are sentences and words, and I think it sort of comes together both artistically, but also gives me that little bit of basically wisdom throughout the month to sort of get me through. I found it really fun looking up some of these proverbs, and I wondered how much of this information was true. You'll also see that there is a bit of Japanese calligraphy. I hope it's correct. I did some research, and more than one site had this particular symbol for the month of July, but in lieu of writing July, I decided to use the symbol throughout. You will see on the opposite page, I started putting in my habit trackers. there was a bit of a problem because once I started cutting out my tabs, and I love tabs because it quickly gets me to where I want to go, I noticed that I could see those trackers. So I went in and attempted to correct them. You'll see this a little bit later. I don't know how successful it was, but you know what? You make mistakes, you keep going. I still am racking my brain to see if maybe there's another way to make it a bit more aesthetically pleasing. When you make a mistake that large, it's a little hard not to see the mistake, but you get over it, you move forward, and I still like the spreads overall. I used a combination of pins throughout. I usually point out what pins I'm using, but you'll see that I used both Tombows and Archer and Olive Acrylograph pins. I am not using one particular set. I have multiple sets of Archer and Olive Acrylograph pins, and I used lots of different colors from different sets throughout. I also used the Uniball Posca to cover up my mistakes, and the Uniball Signo Gold, and those metallic pins are a staple for me to go in and put in the Olympic sports symbols. You'll see those throughout as well. I use them on my weekly spreads just to highlight some of the sports of the Olympics, trying to incorporate all things into a lot of tiny pages. You'll see where I am creating these circles around the calligraphy. That's what I was talking about when I was talking about riffing on the original logo. I just simply made a bunch of different shapes in a circle around it. It was very sort of freeing and kind of like a Zen tangle, if you will, when I didn't have to sort of follow the very specific guidelines of the logo. These are my workhorse spreads right here. These are just really they're trackers, and I discovered this spread while I was watching videos this past month. A bullet journaler puts a bullet journal planning spread in her bullet journal. I have been very much doing this within another journal, and I just thought this is great. I'm gonna have to figure out who that was and give them a shout out in my description box. This is a line a day. I started doing this for the first time last month and found it really great to just sort of write one thing. It was very freeing, if you will, because sometimes it's just a lot to remember. To write like a whole paragraph, just having that one line a day is awesome. So what you're looking at here is my mood tracker for the month. I love to do a separate tracker for my mood that's a little bit more artistic than some of my other trackers. This stamp is custom. I custom made these synchronized swimmers. I found some images online and I did a sketch and then scanned it into my Mint and created this stamp. I wanted to include the making of this like a tutorial, but I knew this video was going to be long if I did that, and I wanted to keep it as short as possible, especially after my mid-year transfer. But the plan is to color these ladies and to paint the water once everything is finished. You can see that at the end of the month on Instagram. All right, you guys, my Olympic spread is done and it is time for the final flip. Let's do this. All right. I am pretty happy with how this Olympic spread came together overall. There were a lot of elements, the whimsy that I like to include in my spreads, but also a lot of functional things that were needed just to get me through the month. Here is my cover page. You can see the peek through to the Tokyo badge, but also the Olympic iconography, the logo, and the anime characters, who I can't wait to know what their names are. You can see the anime characters peeking through the fans, which is very cartoon-like, and you can see that rhythmic ribbon popping up there. The spread is pretty clean right now, but it's going to be filled with a lot of useful information very soon. There's our Simone Biles. Let's see if she'll spin for us. She's being a little bit of a diva and not doing what we want her to do. But this is one of those things that will get better over time. She will eventually spin exactly how you want her to spin. You just kind of have to work it out. The more you do it, the actual mechanisms will work a lot better. It sort of smooths things out. Here's that mistake that I talked about in person you can really see the paint, and these calendars are huge, so when you're covering up that much area with paint, it's really pretty noticeable. It's not too bad on camera, but boy do I wish I could get it done cleaner. You can see all the badges here. I only talked about the two, the one at the beginning and then the one with the calligraphy for the month, but I also created a badge for the different sports. Not all of them, of course, but just a few to highlight them. Fencing, skateboarding, equestrian jumping, diving, and archery were the ones that I chose for my weeks. My workhorse spreads. I cannot wait to get in here and do this mood tracker to finish it up. I just have a feeling it's going to be one of the favorite things that I've done. Come over to my Instagram and check that out. I'm also curious how this particular spread is going to work. Those of us who bullet journal online also are watching videos pretty regularly, I think, and it's great to find new things, new ways to track, and better ways to organize ourselves. All right, if you like this, please give it a thumbs up. Oh, she's spinning a lot better. Yay! Hit that notification bell. Comment, let me know what you think about the content, and I would love to see any recreations. Follow me on Instagram. See you next month.